Finally feels like fall out there, though. It
No,
happened quick.
more
Yeah,
like
quite a change from a week ago.
Yeah, I did.
All right, there he is.
Perfect.
Well, welcome everybody. This is our complete group with the absence of a deep representative. So I will be reaching out to Jim again to see if we can get a volunteer because we have not received a volunteer yet. I think it's important to that we find that position in order to kind of have the full group. That's going to be an important voice in how we set up procedures and policy. So before we go any further, I'd ask that everybody just introduce yourselves and we can kind of go around the room, tell who you are, what you do, who you're representing, and maybe a quick idea of what your goals are for this subcommittee. John, you want to go first?
I'll go first. Hi, I'm Jim Karenberg from the Chatham Health District, and I've been involved in public health for the last 37 plus years. And I like what I like to get out of this is some new knowledge about the process of funding, because that is a whole new avenue for me, because I'm more into the regulatory, and I understand that certain things will cost more money, but that does not influence how I do my job. The economic side of the house, I have to follow the rules and regulations, but I'm really interested in learning this side of the fence about the cost and economics of what we're going to accomplish here.
I can go next.
Go ahead,
So Matt Pollock here. I'm the supervising environmental engineer for DPH. My program actually is not only subsurface sewage, it does public pools, campgrounds, and disposition of human remains. So we've got a lot on our plate. So as far as my expectations or desires, I'm very would love to hear more about resource allocation and funding and things like that. So I'm all ears. Thank you.
Okay. I'm John Guskowski. I'm a planner with Tyche Planning and Policy Group. Was appointed to this overall committee because I'm also the government relations officer, the legislative liaison for the Connecticut Planning Association. I've been a municipal planner for 25 years or so, mostly in rural towns, so dealing with a lot of septic stuff and the challenges that prevents developers. So yeah, I'm sort of excited to get some expertise and really kind of have the dialogue between folks on the development side, and obviously we've got Bob and Matt, and then folks on the public health side, and ideally DEP, just to kind of talk through how we kind of move through the municipal and state permitting process more smoothly. I'm excited to talk about that.
Hey everyone, I'm Bob Wiedenben. I'm a builder developer based in Wallingford. Matt, first I want to start with, you should lead with that comment that you take care of human remains, because that would keep people from crossing you. If you know how to dispose of us if we cross you in any way. So,
Sure.
fortunately, quite honestly, I know almost everybody on the call, so this is going to be great. My goal is actually I represent the Home Builders Remodelers Association. My goal would be to see that we are able to protect the environment in a way that is most cost effective and expedient. I'm big into things that are process driven, that get things done as quickly as possible while we still dot the I's and cross the T's, but keep the process moving. So that's where I am.
I'm Go
Oh, yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. No, yeah.
No problem.
I'm Adam Scavera. I'm the legislative liaison at DPH. Just looking forward to hearing the discussion and the ideas in this group.
Hi, everyone. This is Mithila. I am environmental analyst 2 from DOH, State of Connecticut. I joined State of Connecticut 2 years back, so I might be the most novice person in this group, but I will be trying to learn a lot from you all and as much as I can help. Thank you so much.
Trenton, you're not on my list.
No, I'm staff for Majority Leader Rojas. He was the proponent of the bill. I'm here exclusively to observe for his sake.
Excellent. Well, welcome. And then I will go, I guess. My name is Gilchrist. This is my first time on a legislative working group. I'm grateful to have the opportunity. From a technical standpoint, I don't have a lot of technical knowledge, but from a user standpoint, I have a lot of experience in trying to plan developments and then execute on those developments. And my biggest reason for wanting to be involved in this and move this ahead is, and Bob will probably attest to this too, the more things that we can get to be prescriptive and less objective, the better we can control costs, and the better we can control, the unknowns that can derail a project. So if we can identify, cost up front and early, then we can really target to make housing more attainable. And then we can also find, solutions to properties and private.
Looks like he froze.
Matt, it looks like you froze up a little bit there.
Yeah, he was saying that they were having issues at his place, and
Okay.
the joys of technology.
Yeah. So, well, if he's not going to get unfrozen, I'll take the reins briefly. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone for devoting the time to this. Matt, are you back with us?
Apparently all of
Okay.
Southbury. Apparently all of Southbury is having issues. I apologize. I'm going to switch over to my cellular service and I'll go from that device in just 1 second.
So as he's doing that, I want to thank everyone. We appreciate the work. This is it's unfortunately going to seem probably like a bit of a work crunch because we have a relatively short turnaround on all of this. The goal being, and Peter and Trent, correct me if I'm wrong, we need to have recommendations basically for January for the session, which means we need to basically summarize our recommendations and get everything approved as a large group in December, which means we basically have the next 6 weeks essentially to kind of scope and come up with some thoughts about our respective topics. So the first thing we may want to do now that we have introduced ourselves is to try to figure out a regular schedule to convene this subcommittee. Matt, are you back with us?
I am. I've
Okay.
changed over to a new device.
All right. I'm just tap dancing here until you came back. So,
excellent.
Yeah, no, if we want to talk about meeting schedule.
Excellent. So is there I think that we kind of want to, we have two problems with meeting schedule, I think. And one is we're going to be waiting on some of the work that the other groups are doing. Like they're going to be setting the policy that we're going to then want to set the process and the funding for. But the process, we can really start to dive into the process and the controls immediately. I would think a regular cadence of once a week to line up with our twice a week I mean, or every other week. Committee meetings would be good. Is there a day and a time of day that works best for everybody?
I personally would like to do it during the week because I only work till 12 o'clock on Fridays.
Okay.
So this cost here would have to, I'll get covered through work. But if Fridays at 2 works for the best, then I will rearrange my schedule for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Fridays at 2 are the best for everybody. I know that I think we all just jumped on this. I know that we in the home builders, we actually have our government affairs meetings Friday at 2. I just knew we didn't have one today, so I took one and took the spot. So is there, and I totally understand that during the week is easier for, during the middle of the week is easier for a lot of people. How do people's Tuesdays look? Because that could be good with, 2 Tuesday meetings followed by every other Wednesday committee meeting. Does Tuesdays a good working day for people?
That
Yeah.
works well for me.
Were you thinking, I'm sorry, Jim, you suggested Tuesday afternoons?
I have environmental staff meetings on Tuesdays. That's once a month. Tuesdays, anytime is good for me.
I'm going to throw out a time just to see if we can kind of zoom in on. How about Tuesdays at 10? Does Tuesdays at 10 work for people?
Yeah, I can make that work.
That looks really good for me.
That's good for me.
Excellent. That is normally a perfect time for me. And
Matt and Adam and Mathila?
It works for me, Matt.
Yeah. Yeah, works for me too.
Can you just hold on 1 second? I'm just double checking that I shut my camera off because I had to grab my planner. Because I'm on another committee and I think it is Tuesdays, but I don't think it's 10 o'clock. So let me just double check that. Bear quick. So sorry about that. I'm fumbling here. Let's see. I think Tuesdays would actually work for me too at 10 o'clock. So yes, thank you.
yeah, Tuesdays at 10 are like almost always a great day for me. The only time it's not is next week because I have a whole bunch of companies coming in. So I looked at my big calendar. Is there any way we could do this Tuesday at 9?
That doesn't work for me. I have a team. I have a standing 9 o'clock.
Okay.
But if that's I can.
All right, and
How about what time are you done, Matt? Maybe 11?
Maybe 1 o'clock on Tuesday.
That's okay with me. You're talking about just for next week.
Yeah, and I'm okay if quite honestly, John could run the meeting Tuesday at 10, and if I can get back on the meeting fast enough, then I'll jump back on it.
1 o'clock this coming Tuesday, the 14th works better.
Does 1 o'clock on Tuesday work for everybody?
Yeah.
If we only go an hour, that's going to work. I have something at 2 I need to jump on to. Are you guys imagining more than an hour?
I would probably say we won't have more than an hour, at least initially. So I think 1 hour would be just fine. Does 1 o'clock work better for everybody going forward, or does you guys want the 10?
I think that's fine with me.
I can do either.
Yeah, broadly 10 is better, but if 1 o'clock works for people, that's fine.
That's weird. And it won't even go into.
Got a hot
Matt, let's stay with 10 except for next week for you.
All right, sounds good. Then we'll send the invite for 10.
I figured since it's for Casio, it should probably come from that.
And then we'll go 10 the following weeks.
Sorry, so the 14th is 1 o'clock, the 21st and 28th, et cetera, would be
10 a.m.
10 o'clock. Okay.
And at some point, I'm hoping that we can actually get together in person and meet. But let's get a couple meetings under our belt, and then we'll tackle that scheduling nightmare. And all right, so that's number 3. Discuss subcommittee goals and establish parameters based on time and priorities. Go ahead, John. You start saying.
Nope, sorry.
No. So the goals of the subcommittee will be to put a process in place that helps control changes and developments in the implementation of new rules and regulations in septics, how we approve septics, whose roles and responsibilities for the different government agencies with regard to sanitary septic systems, and that I think we need to come up with a very clear, concise statement of our goals. Does that sound like the right goals for this subcommittee?
I apologize, Matt. But on that PowerPoint presentation that was sent out, dated October 1st, it has those 4 bullet comments.
Right.
Is that what?
I'm pulling them up.
Yeah, it says clarify interactions with land use processes, identified bottlenecks in septic approvals, define agency roles in approvals, and establish sustainable funding. Is that that's our foundation that we have to work on?
I think that was our original tasking. Yes.
Okay.
Matt, regarding process, would we also be looking at future proposals or suggested changes to regulations and how those might be processed and implemented, or is this kind of a one-time thing?
My understanding, and kind of some of the precipice of how we got here was, there were some changes by different government agencies based on, they were based on policy changes, not on new laws, not on actual legislation. So, I think the idea is that we come up with the process that allows for, the iterative improvement of septic policy, but, and the review of it, and then the approval of it legislatively. So I think that that's a key part of, 1, how we got here, but 2, a really key part of what we have to come up with. Because, if an organization, a administrative organization in government can just say, okay, here's the new rule, without that rule being vetted through all the other people that touch it and understanding of all the ramifications of that rule, that's when bad policy comes. So, and I think that's kind of why we're here. We're here to reset the stage, to say, okay, if DPH has an improvement to septics that they really want pushed through, how does that improvement become policy across the state? If DEEP has input on how this needs to go, then how does that become policy across the state? One thing that I always go back to is the building code. The building code is very prescriptive, and it doesn't. It allows for frequent updates, but it doesn't allow for updates just because. So, like, we have to do it on a prescribed way, and then once those updates are made, everybody has to follow those updates. The building official in Ridgefield can't decide he wants to do something different, and Ridgefield's going to have a different building code. It's very prescribed, and it creates consistency. So Adam, I think your hand was up first. Go ahead.
No, I think Matt was up first, so I'll defer to Matt, and then
Okay.
if he doesn't cover what I cover, I'll jump in and say direct.
Thank you, Adam. Yes. So just a couple things. I just want to just give you what my mind's eye, the role of myself and our offices here is. I mean, it's pretty clear where the directions we're going in. So the way I see this, all of these committees and subcommittees is, I'm kind of an observer and I can provide you information. You already know sort of where we stand, but if you don't, then you can certainly ask me and I'm going to give you a little background of what we do. And then you guys come up with, however you feel something should be done. And then it's looked at by essentially our commissioner, which is eventually going to come down to me. That's my understanding. So I'm sort of I know I'm only going to answer unless I'm asked, so to speak. That's kind of how I feel. But I'm going to, unless you guys correct me if I'm wrong on that. Now, what I can tell you about the current process right now, just so it sounds like everybody might help everybody just to get an idea of what the current process is. So right now, for on-site sewage disposal is essentially broken down by gallonage. Design flow, if you will. Okay, so based off of a property right now, if it's from from zero essentially to 7,500 gallons, it's regulated under DPH and local health. Anything greater than 7,500 gallons is going to DEEP. And so we have a particular process. Obviously, I can't speak for DEEP, but as far as our process goes, we have regulations clearly, and then we have a document called the technical standards. Now, the technical standards is basically that it's standards for septic system design that are highly technical. In other words, they get into specific products and pipings and things like that, level of detail that regulations do not cover. So currently right now, our regulations are written that defer to the details of the requirements for septic systems to within this technical standards document. Now, who governs that? So we have a thing called a code advisory committee that we have. So we're obligated to change or make changes if necessary to that technical standards every 2 years. Sometimes we do it 3 years, sometimes we do it 4, sometimes right on the 2. And it's really a function of when we meet this code advisory committee, and I'll explain exactly who that consists of and how that works in a moment. But we get the purpose again of the technical standards is because technology changes, information changes as far as how these things function. And so these need to be incorporated into code changes. And so what we have, again, this committee is set up to mirror or consist of rather all of the stakeholders, which include home builders, includes sanitarians, includes licensed installers, which are the folks that install the septic systems. We have representatives from the sewer authority. We have soil scientists. Pretty much you name it, we have it on our committee. And so when we meet, we have an agenda, we post it. We have discussion points. People that are members can provide discussion points to discuss during the meeting, and we hash them out. And so a lot of times any changes that are implemented within the technical standards, they have been vetted through this organization called the Code Advisory. So just one other quick thing. So when I say representatives, so the Home Builders Association would be an example. They would elect or assign somebody that specifically comes and speaks for that organization. Sanitarians, they assign a person to come or two, and those people represent, so they collect information and they also present information based off of their constituents. So I just want to throw that out there. I don't want to dominate the meeting at all, but I just want to just give you just a broad or a general perspective on how things work. And then I'll hand it over to Adam.
Yeah. So yeah, the piece I'd like to add here is also the regulation process. A lot of how this legislation came to pass was as a reaction to the regulations proposed by the department regarding the switchover from DEEP to DPH. We were charged with adopting regulations to move that over from DEEP to DPH. That regulatory process is pretty well spelled out in statute. We had a public comment period. Department had, even before that official public comment period opened up, the department has striven to, had stakeholder engagement sessions previous to that, so we can try to address concerns ahead of it opening up for official 30-day public comment period. Once it's open up to the public comment period, the department does have some time to review the comments and make any changes possible that we think are reasonable and well-grounded. And then from there, once we have additional draft, it goes to the legislature's regulation review committee, which is a evenly divided bipartisan committee of the legislature that gives ultimate approval to any regs submitted by a state agency. So that process, that part of the process is pretty well spelled out in statute. And, it's the same across all state agencies.
Thank you. Bob?
Yeah, first I want to start with Matt. I think you're far more valuable than you're giving yourself credit for, because you clearly know what the current process is and how it works better than anyone else probably in the room. Maybe other than that, I'm from a legal standpoint, technical standpoint. But what I think we have to really pay attention to is we, as a group, could come up with all these great ideas, and you go, well, in reality, that's not going to work because of X, Y, or Z. Or, those are good ideas that we can implement, but this is what has to change. And some of what Adam was saying is we could come up with something that says we need to change statute to make the Code Advisory Committee more like the Codes and Standards Committee under the building code. And it gives them more authority, and it doesn't give you guys the opportunity to pick and choose what gets in, but they're going to actually dictate what is going to be implemented. That's just one, for instance. But I think, Matt, you're going to be critical to that from an implementation of probably not only current regulations, but proposed changes. And Jim, on the other hand, is going to be really helpful of how these all boil down in the local level and how this works at the regional groups or individuals, depending on how your local area is set up. How they function in the real world on a day-to-day basis. So I think you guys are going to be instrumental. Like I said, we come up with great ideas, but you guys go the practical aspect of this. Unless we're going to get you 15 more people in both your offices, we can't implement those things. And that's probably where we're talking about from a funding standpoint. We're kind of focusing right now on process, but I think the funding in my mind is always going to be, does DPH need more help if we're going to create this new process or system, or do the regional or local sanitarians need more assistance if we're putting more burden on them? Where the shift is between what gets done at a local level, what gets done at DPH type thing. So I just wanted to throw that out there, but please, I want you to interject during this process. Don't just sit back and
don't observe.
Participate.
Yeah, okay, good. Good.
Yeah, please don't just observe. On that note, do you guys already have an in-house document that you would share with us that kind of shows, the breakdown of how the process works? Because it might be a really good framework to start from, that we take DPH's process, and then we see how that interacts with other organizations, and then we build on top of that.
I can send out the official Connecticut General Assembly breakdown on the regulations process. It's incredibly dense. So if DPH has a better document, I think that would be welcome.
Yeah, Trent, if you could send us yours, but I'm sure that there's like a cheat sheet somewhere in DPH that you guys boil it down, for yourselves.
Well,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead, Adam. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say, is on the reg side, I think we did take a shot at one point of boiling it down into a one-pager. It's an incredibly dense one-pager. I'll see if I can find that. Trenton might have something better on the regs process. But anything with the regs process is going to be a pretty dense document. Matt, I interrupted.
No sweat, Adam. And Adam's going to take care of the legislative side, and I'll get on the details of the technical standards. We do indeed have a document, and I'll see if I can get that to you guys, that basically describes that process that I just spoke about in a little more detail than I just did. Again, the technical standards with the code advisory committee, how decisions, are made and why they're made and things like that. Yes, I can do that.
I think that would be helpful. Jim?
Pardon me for being so simplistic. Based on these current discussions, I think we're looking at something that is beyond us. Our goals is to submit something to the commissioner. Our goal is not to get tied up in the weeds about how the process gets approved. We need to submit something to the commissioner, and then the commissioner, once we submit it, will then go through the process. I mean, it's nice to know what the process is, but I don't think that's in our realm right now. We need to develop something. We develop it, we agree upon it, we send it up, and let it take its course.
Well, tell me more about that. What direction do you want to see that go? I'm not fully understanding.
Well, we're a subcommittee. We come up with our requirements or our goals. Then we submit it up to the chair, and then it goes from there. I'm not really concerned about what the process is if it goes through the legislation or not. That's not for us. We need to submit something. Who cares right now about how it goes and gets approved or not? But we need to focus on attaining these goals, and then those will, however they will take its own course based on how it goes up through the chain of command.
Matt, earlier you mentioned looking to see some sort of uniformity, I think, and you mentioned the building code. I don't know how the building code works. That's that's another department. But I know from here, we rely on people like Jim and the Chatham Health Department for a lot of on the ground work and knowing their communities. And so, we have our process here, but, I'm also sure each local health department has their own process as well. I don't know if, Jim, you have any thoughts or ideas around that, or I don't know how that falls into all of this part of the discussion as well.
Well, our process, if we just stick with subsurface, is guided by the Public Health Code, Section 1913 B103, and what Matt talked about is the current technical standards 2024, and also throw in that there are design manuals associated with the technical standards 1 and 2. So those are our guidelines and rules and regulations that we follow.
And I imagine most local health departments would tell you the same thing.
Well, it's funny,
but yeah,
it's funny because it's one public health code and it's one technical standards. And when you talk to septic installers that work throughout the state here, it's funny to hear how other health departments look at the code and the technical standards and interpolate them, totally different. I got too much stuff on my mind to interpolate. It's all spelled out in the health code and in technical standards. I believe in the KISS theory, keep it simple and just follow those regulations, and you treat everybody equally.
So there's kind of two processes that we're kind of kicking around here. The first process is the process of how do we get this system for this project through all the approvals and who that has to touch. and is, clearly defining all the rules. There's already rules and regulations that define that. But we need to review that process and see, how that works. And then there's the other process of how do changes to the rules and regulations that dictate that other process, how does that evolve over time, and how do we make sure that process is more stable, and everybody knows, okay, hey, we know when the next revision is coming, and we know when the next, we know what the science is going to tell us in after the 2-year review period, so there's really two processes that are existing here. Am I framing that correctly?
Yeah, I think the first one, and we can just talk about that real quick. You're saying, like, if I want to develop a piece of property from start to finish, how would it go? Yeah, there is. It's real simple, actually. It all would start as far as anything in DPH's jurisdiction, which would mean anything less than 7,500 gallons per day. And I also should qualify at the moment, no alternative technology. So we're just talking a simple septic system, tank, leach field, perhaps a pump chamber. So with that said, how it all works, it all starts at the local level, which is very smart because the locals know there's certain zoning restrictions in every town. There's all kinds of other things. So that it's always starts at the local level. And once it's been vetted into the town and specifically in this case, the health department, once they review the plans and specs for that, then that information, they review the plans and they make comments on it. Then it comes up to us for a second tier approach for review. And this would only be, by the way, for systems over 2,000 gallons per day. So a typical residential home, the locals are doing that completely at the local level. But I think we're talking here again, knowing housing and the criticalness of getting more housing. Let's talk about multifamily housing developments. Those, generally speaking, are going to be probably more than 2,000, which oftentimes means that, well, all the time rather, that would first go to the locals, then come to us. And then once it's reviewed by us, we would give our approval. Then the locals take it back, so to speak, and then they're conducting, once the system is built and everything else, they're conducting all of the inspections and issuing all the permits. So pretty much the locals are really doing the lion's share of the actual processing of it. We are just offering a second tier of review. We, meaning DPH. Myself and my staff will oftentimes participate in the initial process of data collection, which basically means going out there and doing soil testing, just because we like to see it with our own eyes in conjunction with the locals. And sometimes the locals actually want us there, especially if there's some difficult conditions out there. They like to have us as a backup. But that's in a nutshell, that's that first process you talked about. And the second process, again, is the technical standards. How do we come up with these specific rules? And again, we have that committee that decides on it. I mean, I can give you an example too, if you want me to just give you one thing. So a few years back, we had this safety device that we wanted to put in risers, and we wanted to vet it through the local health departments and the licensed installers in this case, because this particular device, they're the ones that put these things in. They're the ones that purchase them and things like that. So, and actually in that time, they didn't give us probably as much information as they should have. So when we implemented, there was some bugs in it and having it go through. And then the next code iteration, we actually made some revisions that sort of fixed the bugs, so to speak. But again, that's just an example of, and that's what makes this process really nice, is it allows things to evolve and kind of be tweaked and massaged. And it gets industry input, the people that are actually touching the stuff, that are putting the stuff in the ground, that understand, the boots on the ground, so to speak. So, I personally like the process. The only disappointment I have is I think sometimes people get complacent as far as some of the members of the committee, where they don't participate as much as they should, and then after the fact, when something gets passed, they complain about it, when we're like, well, we told you up front and you didn't say anything, and now it's already in the code. But the good news is 2 years later, or even a year later, if it was a big enough deal, we could make changes change the code in a year and fix if that's an issue. So yes, I don't get too long-winded, but those are your two processes.
John, do you mind going back to that PowerPoint? I'm trying to pull it up on my stuff, but I'm on an iPad. I can't do it. Can you just pull up that one screen, that one slide from that PowerPoint?
No, wait, which
The one
PowerPoint?
you were quoting the tasking by the.
Yeah. Yeah, I can share.
If you can pull that up and share that. I kind of want to bring us back. I think we've had great discussion here, but I want to bring us back to try to focus in on our next steps. You know, what data do we need? What facts do we need? What information do we need to pull together between now and next week and start to review so we can have a productive meeting on Tuesday?
Sure. Okay. Can everyone see this? This is the proposed agenda for today.
That's the proposed agenda for today, but you quoted Jim's PowerPoint where he outlined each of the subcommittee's jobs.
Oh.
That was
yeah. I know. I don't know if if I quoted that. I was working off the agenda. Hang on.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can. I don't know if I have. Do I have Jim's? I don't know if I even have Jim's PowerPoint from last week.
Okay. I just thought you were quoting off of it, but in your emails, you're going to see the regulatory pipeline that's already popped in. Thank you, Trenton, for that.
Oh.
I thought we had it too, and I was looking for it, but I can't find it on my iPad. So, all right, to bring it back to our agenda today, you know, we've just been trying to discuss our goals and establish parameters based on our timeline and priorities. So
I was able to find the PowerPoint if you want me to bring it up.
Perfect.
Yeah, that'd be great. Sorry.
And I apologize for my technical difficulties today.
Yeah, can you see that?
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So this is our group. Clarify interactions with land use processes, which we've been discussing so far. Identify bottlenecks in the septic approvals. Identify the key roles in each one of these departments in the approvals. And all we've talked about so far, it has been the local, sanitarium and DPH. We haven't gone into deep wetlands P&Z. And then establish sustainable funding, to help execute the goals of the subcommittee and the committee. What information do we need to pull together in order to take our conversation to the next level? Or what information does anybody in this group want to share in order to help take our conversation further?
Well, I'm going to get you the technical standards process, and I think we can discuss that. The thing that Jim Karenberg might get into is as far as clarify interactions and land use processes. So before it comes to us, that generally speaking, how it works at the local level is they route a project through all the different town agencies and they get sign-offs. So, for instance, I'll give you an example, like the wetlands folks oftentimes are in conflict on occasion for some of these projects when it comes to septics and specifically nitrogen. And so I've experienced that. And so, I guess you could call that a bottleneck. And that's one of the reasons why, by the way, I felt that having nitrogen included in these projects was important, because what I didn't want to see is an agency the inland wetlands governing nitrogen for septic systems when they don't have any idea. So in a way, it would be better if it was under DPH's control, which in a sense has some input from the code advisory, meaning people like the land developers. So that's why I pushed for that as well, because again, to avoid that process, because it's very uncomfortable when other agencies are dictating that policy, and I've seen that firsthand.
Where does deep fall into that?
They don't. It's only when it's over 7,500 gallons per day or it has AT. So that there's no involvement at that point. It's just the local wetlands commission, and they're the ones that are saying, this body would be impaired by that septic system. And I've seen it. I had one in Guilford that was just it was tough for the developer because the wetlands was dictating we don't have nitrogen requirements. So they were like, well, we feel it's a problem in the septic system. So I just don't think that's a good idea to have somebody that doesn't understand septic systems dictating septic policy. It was essentially what was happening there. They could kill the project if they could prove in their realm that somehow it was going to cause a problem without any input from us, or we couldn't give any input because we don't have standards or any type of baseline to say what's good, what works and what doesn't for nitrogen. That's why, like I said, I felt it was important to have that in there. So if a developer can say, no, we meet the nitrogen standards, go away. That's that's fine.
So
a prescriptive standard.
Yeah, I see Bob and Jim up, but I just want to jump in here quickly. So yeah, for the current up to 7,500 process, I think that's what Matt was referring to. If you guys want to discuss what the current 75 to 10,000 gallon process is, that's in deep right now. And then we could probably also discuss about what regs were proposed by the department for handling that shift over and how that would be similar and different because we made changes to the process that we felt were going to make it easier for, development while also being cognizant of the environmental concerns for nitrogen, which, DEEP had also handled in theirs. They do continue to hold, if you need an alternative treatment system, that would still be held by DEEP at the moment
Why is that?
as well.
What? I we got to get to these hands, but
yeah,
why?
we would need to set up a whole program. It would be a whole new program for the department for alternative treatment systems. That would need time and staffing to help set up.
Wouldn't it make more sense if everything septic fell under Department of Health and nothing fell under DEEP?
I mean,
let's say,
yeah.
I was going to say, I mean, that's a policy decision for I think as a department, we defer to the legislature.
And I think that's one of those recommendations that we should probably working towards making is, a consolidated one-stop shop for all things septic. But Bob, I don't want to.
Yeah, that's okay. No, that's fine. No, that's a good point. We are on a short time frame for the overall process here, so I'm wondering if we should try to focus on the stuff that's within the purview of DPH today. Maybe that could be just a bullet at the end of this agreement or this discussion is that we should look in the future to streamlining all systems, like you said, all encompassing. Matt brings up a good point, and that is, inland wetlands in particular, I think, is one that we really have to be cautious of because they're the groups that tend to say, yeah, I know the health department or the local authority said it's okay to have a system within 100 feet, but we think it should be 250. And I think it should be defined that, they're supposed to only regulate what impacts wetlands and watercourses, and I think there's a little other caveat to their exact definition. They tend to get into stormwater management and into septic designs, and we should try to clarify exactly what their authority is and what should be handled by the health department at whichever level it's at. So there's a clean break between. I think that if we came out of this whole group with just that that would be a huge success in my mind, just that one little piece. And I'm not saying change what it is, but just define what it is so everybody knows what rules we're playing by.
Because you know as well as I do, Bob, when you're standing up there in front of wetlands and they said, well, we need you to move it back 50 feet and we need you to only use this kind of system. And we're dying because our approval costs are going through the roof. We often go, okay, fine,
Yeah.
but now we just gave in to something that they didn't have the ability to demand or the science to actually back up.
Yeah.
So that's always hard. Jim? Oh, you're on mute, Jim.
Thank you, Matt. Mr. Pollock can save me if I put my foot in my mouth. The public health code talks about individual lots. Okay, everything's based on an individual lot. A subdivision is multiple individual lots, as you're all aware of. So the Wetlands Commission then looks at the overall property that's being developed, where we're looking at it at each individual lot. And the public health code and the technical standards are based on distances, separation distances. Okay, and if you maintain those separation distances, and you have a properly sized designed subsurface sewage disposal system, then we're going to approve those lots, each for the entire subdivision. But they don't look at, the Wetlands Commission does not look at each individual lot. They look at the overall lot. And I got a better understanding through Mr. Pollock about the reason for the introduction of nitrogen. Also, the state of Connecticut is very unique, that we have a DEP and we have a DPH and local health departments. I think other states, like in Massachusetts, it's under one jurisdiction, not 3 jurisdictions like that we have here in the state of Connecticut. So condense it. And again, recent history, everything is falling down on local health departments, because we're the boots on the ground, but there's going to come to a point where you can't dump all this stuff on the local health department. So we have to keep that in cognizance. I don't deal in subsurface sewage disposal systems only. I deal with wells. I deal with daycare centers. I deal with child with elevated blood levels, investigations, restaurant inspections, complaints. So even though that we're focusing on one portion of my job, I wear local health departments, or me, I wear many hats, and I can put on 2 or 3 or 4 hats in one day.
Yeah, great point. Which ties back to our funding question.
Out of curiosity, what's the arrangement in Massachusetts that it's one agency? What's the agency?
I apologize. It's under their. I don't know that. I do not have that answer for you, John.
Okay, no, I'm just it's curious. I mean, that would be a big change to look at something like that. I'm just curious how they have it arranged. Okay, well, that's maybe something to look at.
Well, I like
DEP.
It's DEP.
Yeah.
And that's so it's a statewide entity that everyone would have to deal with, presumably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Massachusetts has this thing called Title V. You sell your house, you got to upgrade your septic system.
Yep. So, we are about 5 minutes away from being at an hour, and I think we want to be good to everybody's time, especially on a Friday afternoon. I don't think that we really achieved what we wanted to achieve today, and I'm going to work harder on the agenda to really dive it down, and I'm going to present some goals gonna clean up the goals from the PowerPoint, and I'll work with John on this, and we'll come into Tuesday's meeting a little bit more precise on what we want to achieve. If you have, please send me those documents that show the process, and I will continue to try to hone in. Okay, what's our first step? What's our second step? And I'll talk to Jim a little bit more about how the other subcommittees are doing, Jim Paris, and kind of pull in to see how they're making out and where we can go from there. But I know we put a quick pin in it, but I really don't understand why we have deep and DPH dictating septic design even over 7,500 gallons. But I'm going to read up on it more so I can ask Matt some more detailed questions on why that might be a good idea.
It might. So it might. Trenton, thank you, Trenton. Sent around the flow chart for process. If I don't know, one of you DPH types might. If someone is comfortable, we could maybe just have someone sort of walk us through the flow chart a little bit and next week and kind of flag a couple of areas that could have some different direction, or it could be open to adjustment if they seem particularly cumbersome or things get bogged down. I think that might be a useful discussion, just so we're all on the same page about literally how a bill becomes a law.
Yeah, I was looking at it just now, and I'm like, there's a lot of numbers in here and a lot of things I don't understand. So a quick description of how this flows would be very, very good.
I'd be curious just how we ended up in this place.
I'm certainly not capable of running through that. I don't know that anyone from Deep would be either. I don't want to speak for them, but a lot of the items in there are like AG processes, future legislative processes. I could check to see if the regs admin would want to. I think that would probably go much faster than having one of us try and parse out what's going on there. Matt, you done that? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that would be great. It's a Visio chart from hell. So
yeah.
It definitely needs a little bit of clarification. So that would be good. Excellent. So again, I apologize that we didn't stick better to a task, but I think our conversation was good, and I learned some stuff here, and I have a whole list of things to research before next week. So unless anybody else has anything, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Matt.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Bye.
Thank you so much, and have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you on